Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. Today, I wanted to go over a topic that was requested recently regarding how to know when to leave an avoidant. When is that time? What are the signs that you can look for? And when I'm practicing, I do notice these signs with patients who I think are not making progress. So, this is also something we look at for them in terms of healing. It's just something to think about, just in terms of also the couple, how they're progressing, if this relationship is valuable and what needs to be adjusted. But oftentimes, this is a reflection that maybe it is actually time to leave. There are moments in a relationship where you can do everything, and sometimes the relationship it's not meant to be at this time. It's not meant to work for this particular moment. And so that's important to recognize. I think all individuals need to know when that is, but I want to preface that does not necessarily mean you have to. It's just a way to determine. It's a guide. I'm not saying if your partner fits all these categories that you have to leave, and I'm also not saying that you have to stay even if they do none of these things, right? It's up to you to determine, but this is just a guide to help people. And the very first one, which I think is the most important, which is why I put it first, so any of y'all that just watch like the beginning of videos at least can walk away with this one. And it is that there is no change whatsoever, not even subtle changes. There is just not any change. And I think change is the most determining factor for couples in general, like what that means for the individual, for themselves, and what it means for the couple. The reason why is because most couples who are together, they do change. Just in general, whoever they are, they change not just for their partner, but for the progress of the relationship. And sometimes it's not even on purpose. So if you see that your partner has literally no change at all, it could be a sign that they're actually not very invested in the relationship. Because I see this all the time where I'm working with couples, even if I got them later in their life and I still am working with them for like a year or 2 years, I still see change. So change happens indefinitely. And change doesn't even mean attachment wise. It could be like change in their habits, like they're more closer to mimicking your habits. It could be that your partner is more self-aware of just things in general. Maybe their anger has decreased. Maybe their control behaviors have changed. Like a lot of avoidance, actually this is more common with fearful avoidance, but dismissive avoidance as well. They're like very overly structured in general. And if you're seeing that, they're letting go of some of that control and fear of uncertainty in their own lives, that's a sign of change too. Now, how you determine change can be different, but it's really important to recognize that change in general is a good sign for a relationship, especially if they're getting closer to you. If you're noticing that they're actually opening up a little bit to you, this is a sign as well. And actually what I notice is even in the first year of a relationship, avoidants still will get a little bit closer than they were when they first met you. If there's no difference at all and it's the same cycle over and over and over again, you're still trying to get the same things and there is no movement on either side, that could be a sign that either you have to leave or there's something that needs to be, adjusted on whoever's side, right? Because that cannot continue. I will preface that most relationships have little things that they're always going to fight over, the same things over and over. This is based on research. Like most little issues are, but I'm talking about like big issues where let's say your partner keeps, making the same excuses, or if your partner, which is not common with avoidance, but it can happen. Let's say they stepped out of the relationship at one point and you still see that they're texting people or whatever it is, and there's no change and there's no accountability. That's a really big sign that maybe this relationship is not going in the direction that you may need it to go. Okay. And by the way, I'm not saying that all avoidants like step out of the relationship. It's actually not very common. But if it does happen and you choose to stay and they're still not making progress in that direction, it's very important. That's just one example. Another example could be their triggers, right? Like avoidant individuals, as they get closer to their partner, their triggers decrease. It's just the way they are at this time based on their triggers, based on their childhood wounds. And if you have been together for like 4 or 5 years and they're still triggered the almost exact same way they were when you guys first started dating, that might be a sign that maybe there's not as much change. And that could be a conversation that you have to have, right? The next sign to know that maybe it's time to leave your avoidant partner is you have made changes and adjustments and they have not budged pretty much at all. Now, it's really important to be careful about this one because a lot of individuals who are anxious attached, they tend to look at things very black and white, and they tend to look at things from a very negative perspective. And so what ends up happening is they may actually think their partner has not made changes and they overestimate their changes. And I'm not blaming any individual who is anxious or fearful, leaning anxious. That's not your fault. It's a trauma that you guys have actually faced, right? Because you're hyper focused on what you're not getting because your parents didn't give you the things that you needed. And so you put that onto your partner. You're expecting them to meet a lot of your needs that your parents didn't meet. And so what ends up happening is you're very hyper focused on you not getting your needs met. So sometimes because of that hyper fixation, you determine it's more imbalanced than it is. So take a step back to really evaluate this particular one. Try and pay attention. Is it really true that they have not budged at all and that you've made a lot of adjustments, or are there still things that you guys could work on before you leave a relationship? And why, in my perspective, do I think leaving a relationship has to be something that you have to be careful about choosing is because once you leave a relationship, it can be harder to fix it once you get back together. Not all the time, especially if you both are really determined and committed to make it work, but it's a lot easier to make relationships work when you're still together, right? When you guys have a break or you break up and you come back together, and a lot of you guys are in that situation, you guys know sometimes it can be a little bit difficult in the beginning to make it work again. After a while, it can get easy just as the same, but usually it's easier, or I guess it can be a little bit easier if you guys try to make it work while still together so you don't introduce that insecurity. So I'm not saying to stay with somebody who does not treat you well. All I'm saying is just be careful with how you assess and determine these things because some individuals, they leave because they're feeling an emotion and they may regret it. I see this so much in my office. That's why I think it's important to bring that up. I don't know how common it is outside of the population I work with, but I do see a lot of off and on relationships, and all I see is that it becomes more and more unhealthy as the relationship progresses. Only unless they really determine, okay, I'm not going to make the same mistakes the first time. That's when I notice healing. So just be careful about your consideration for leaving. Again, not saying you should stay, but I'm also saying consider all options, which is why I'm making this video, okay? The next one is, I would say, pretty important as well, that they're not actually unavailable, they're just unavailable to you. Now, this one's a little triggering, and I probably should have prefaced that there might be some triggering stuff in this video. This topic, I may have to make a separate video on this, and unfortunately, this topic I can't touch on too much on YouTube. So it's like another thing I'm trying to battle because there are some details about this that will go in certain directions that, are not allowed on YouTube, which is understandable. So forgive me if this sounds a little bit brief or a little hard to understand. It's because I am actually omitting some information because I can't say it. But sometimes when you're sometimes what happens is somebody is the other woman, other man, affair partner. And they believe that their married partner or partner who's coupled is an avoidant. And the reason why they feel this way, even though their partner is not an avoidant, but they feel this way because what ends up happening is the partner feels unloved, unreciprocated, like their time is split. And if you're with an avoidant, it feels like that too. So because they are looking at their feelings, they determine, okay, because I'm feeling X, Y, and Z, I feel all the ways that avoidants that tend to make you feel, my partner is an avoidant. But what ends up happening is when you determine that without paying attention to their actual childhood wounds and you don't look at the whole picture, what ends up happening is you use a lot of techniques to heal and connect and grow with an avoidant, but it's not working because your partner's actually not an avoidant. And the reason why I bring this up is a lot of individuals who do have an affair partner or who step out of the relationship, the reason why that's not too common for avoidant individuals. Now, it does happen, but the reason why it's not too common is because people who do that, they actually do it because they're afraid to be alone or they can't stand being alone, or they can't meet their own needs by themselves, or they can't be patient for their partner to meet their own needs, or they can't speak up for themselves. A lot of these characteristics are not common with avoidant individuals. Most avoidant individuals are completely fine with leaving relationships. Actually, often avoidant individuals, like if they're with you, that's already an indication that they're happy, because a lot of avoidants, they don't tend to stay if they're unhappy. That's not really, it can happen, but a lot of avoidant individuals don't really do that, especially dismissive avoidant. And so if you are the other partner, or your partner maybe is stepping out on you, or whatever it may be important to reevaluate, is this person really an avoidant? Now, it is possible, so please don't think suddenly it means they're not an avoidant, but it's very important to evaluate, is this person really an avoidant? And the reason why I bring that up is because if that's the case, and you've determined they are not an avoidant, that means you have to use different techniques to manage this relationship, not the same techniques you would use with an avoidant, which means you haven't used all opportunities, or you should leave, or you can leave based on the fact that they're actually not meeting your needs because of another determining factor, which is up to you to decide. But that's why it's important. That's why number 3 is you need to determine if they are really an avoidant or not, okay? If they are actually not unavailable, or if they're just unavailable to you, okay? The next one is personal reflection. Consider if you have really made effort to meet all your partner's needs. Now, the second one was that you have made adjustments and that they just haven't budged, right? That means that it's time to leave, right? But it's important to know, is it time to leave if you really have made all those adjustments, or if you have not, right? So consider that, and consider that maybe that's something you need to look at as well, such as giving space, or adjusting communication frequency, or just reflecting, have you actually healed your own attachment? And the reason why this is really important is because if you have, then maybe there needs to be a different direction for your life and your situation. But if you haven't, that's something to think about. Maybe by doing that, you can actually feel more satisfied in this relationship, right? So that's important. Expectation adjustments. Have you adjusted your expectations, or have you not? And has your partner adjusted their expectations? Both of you guys need to adjust in order for the relationship to work. If you guys both have, and there's still no movement, and you still feel like this relationship is just stagnant, it might be time to leave. Reflect on whether your expectations for your relationship are realistic compared to secure relationships, compared to if you didn't have those wounds. Acknowledge that progress might look different with an avoidant partner, but that doesn't mean there is no progress. But it might not be enough for you. That's another thing to consider. And if your partner really has made adjustments and you still don't feel like it's enough, this might just be not the relationship for you, and that's okay. Walking away from relationships are really challenging, but it can also be very rewarding, because then you can actually be with somebody who does meet your needs, okay? The next one is reflect on your needs. Reflect on whether enough of your emotional needs really have been met. This one is really, really tricky. And I don't want to say this without you guys really reflecting and understanding what I mean, because it can be hard to admit that maybe some of your needs are being met. And maybe that's okay for now. I'm not saying it's going to be okay forever. And I'm not saying that you have to stay where you aren't happy. But sometimes people don't recognize what they're walking away from. And the reason why I emphasize that is because you might not get another partner who can actually treat you this way. And sometimes our expectations are just based on things we don't understand yet. And when I mean you might not get another partner who treats you this way, I mean like you could be walking away from somebody that really loves you and you really love them, and you guys are not literally hurting each other. And you could be in a situation that's not better, right? So it's important to recognize you can walk away from a relationship and you can be walking away and it's going to be much better, right? And that happens a lot, right? You're going to walk away from somebody that maybe you do love, but maybe your next partner is going to love you even more. But sometimes it can happen the flip side. And I don't want you guys to be in that situation where you really want love, you really want to be cherished, and you walked away from an opportunity when it was right there, right? It could have been there if you just waited a little bit. Again, this is something for you guys to reflect. I can't do that for you, but reflect on your needs. I had, this was earlier in the week, like right now, I'm recording this right at the end of my work week, but, earlier this week, I had a couple that came in and they were having the talk about, should we be together, right? And the avoidant partner, and this is not specific to this couple, so I'm not like giving their information away. This happens like all the time. At least once a month do my cases, like new cases, do this. Like once a month for my caseload, not for them, okay? And so they will come in. They came in and he was like, he's the dismissive avoidant, and he was saying, I'm never going to leave. If she wants to leave, it's up to her, but I'm never going to leave. He said that directly. And she told me that this is something that he says a lot, right? And she was thinking like, maybe I should leave. Anxious, preoccupied. She was really, really upset. And what I think is really good about this particular person is she is afraid to be abandoned, but she's also not afraid to admit that she's afraid to be abandoned. So like she was very clear about the fact, she's very open that she's anxious, preoccupied. And one thing I tend to mention is when I think people heal, I don't think they need to heal all their traits and need to delete them. That's not the way I think it is. If you're anxious, preoccupied, sometimes you got to own a little bit of that. Like it's okay. You are human and you're not perfect, right? And so she kind of has that because we've been working in session for a while, like as a couple, like couples therapy, and she owns her attachment wounds and he owns his. That doesn't mean they aren't going to fix it and they're not going to adjust, but it's not like she's going to hide or be embarrassed that this is how she feels. And she was saying like, yeah, like if he doesn't change, I know I feel really triggered and I know I'm feeling this way and maybe I should leave because someone can give me better. Like she was really, really triggered, but she was like owning it. And so all of the reality of what she was feeling was really coming out. And then what ended up happening was as soon as it came out, she started realizing, wait a second, did he just say he's never going to leave me? And he was like, yeah, I'm never going to leave you. Like I get that I'm not going to be perfect and I might not change today, but I am trying. But this is who I am right now. Take it or leave it. But I'm never going to leave you. And I'm always going to be loyal to you. He did say that because that's one of her triggers. He said, I'm never going to be with anybody else but you, and I'm never going to leave. Like, that's what I am 100% can offer you. That's what he was saying. And then she stopped and she's like, wait a second. Isn't that like pretty much the concrete of what I want? Now, I'm not saying you have to get the bare minimum because that is the bare minimum, right? But she doesn't really want to leave. Like, that's the reason why she brought this up in session. Like she doesn't want to leave, but she keeps battling that she wants to leave. And so in her mind, the only way for her to remain calm was to remember her biggest fear is being abandoned and being cheated on. That's her specific biggest fear. And he's not going to do that. He might take a while to answer those messages. Like he takes sometimes hours to answer and she doesn't like that. Sometimes he will talk to her in like the middle of the day and she likes good night texts and sometimes he'll forget and she does not like that. And those are like little things actually in the grand scheme of things for her. It might not be a little thing for you, but for her, it's like when you really sit and think about it, I have somebody that loves me. I have somebody that's never going to leave me. And I have somebody that will not step out on me and I love them. And he's trying to make it work. He's in session with me and I'm trying to make it work. I'm in session with him. In her mind, that was enough for the moment. And so why do I bring that up? Reflect on your needs. What is really your needs? What do you need? What does your partner need? Is your partner meeting some of those things? And because she could very well say, okay, that's the bare minimum, I'm out. And you know what? Respect, right? But at the same time, she says, you know what? That is enough for me for now. Respect, right? I respect it. And so think about what you really need and what is your timeline for those needs. Where do you see it going? What do you want? What you want is very important. And when you think about this, don't think about what your partner needs. They can do that themselves. Think about what you need. If you really are determined to leave an avoidant partner, make it a decision that you feel strongly that you can stand behind. I don't want you guys to regret it, but I also don't want you to stay in some place that's unhappy, okay? The next one is readiness for a relationship. Are y'all ready, both of you, ready for a genuine relationship? Because genuine relationships are not always fun. They're not rainbows and butterflies. They're actually pretty difficult, right? Are you ready for the difficult talks? Are you ready for not getting your needs met? Because everybody's not going to get their needs met by their partner. Our needs were determined before our partner, and especially avoidance, actually, especially those who are insecurely attached, they're not good at meeting other people's needs and they're not good at getting their own needs met. And so it's very important. Are you ready for what it takes to be in a relationship? And that's up to you to decide. I can't tell you what it takes, but I can tell you typically it does require compromise a little bit, adjustment a little bit. It means sometimes you have to face your fears. Sometimes you have to face your fears. I had one couple, this is really common as well, anxious, preoccupied male. Actually, I would say he's learning to be more secure. So he might actually be secure now, but anxious, preoccupied when I first got him. Partner, fearful, avoidant. And she was avoiding intimacy in the bedroom. I can't talk about this too much on YouTube, how like the details of it, right? But this is common. And this happens a lot. So I'm not just throwing their information out, right? And what ended up happening was he had to admit, part of the reason why it bothers me that we don't have intimacy as frequently as I would like is because it makes me feel like she doesn't find me attractive. But when he admitted that that's not the issue, I know that she has attachment issues and I know she's working on it. I don't need it as often. I still want it in our relationship, but I don't need it as frequently because I don't need that reassurance anymore. So at first, he wanted everything a specific way because he was afraid. But then he actually recognized, compromising, challenging my beliefs are part of a relationship as well. And by the way, afterwards, it's interesting. As soon as, this is really common with avoidance, as soon as you accept them, they actually change pretty quickly. She literally, the frequency that he wanted in about 6 months, it just went up to exactly what he wanted, even more. But it took him to accept her first 100% for her to feel like, wow, he really cares about me. I want to fix this very much so. And she fixed it by just giving it a shot. She faced her fears and she just did what she had to do and she actually enjoyed herself. But he had to step back and be like, okay, is this really the hill that I want to die on? Is this really where I want my relationship to end? And he determined, no, I still want to be here. And then he got his needs met. So determine, are you ready? Because if you're not and that's too hard for you, maybe it's not worth being with an avoidant, because I can tell you a secure person will make it easier, truly. And I'm telling you the truth. Avoidants are not, they can be, it puts you in a difficult place. If you're an anxious person or fearful avoidant and you're with a dismissive avoidant, it puts you in a place where you have to challenge almost all of your fears. It's really scary. And vice versa, by the way. Dismissive avoidance, anxious preoccupied is going to challenge your fears and then some. It's scary. It's terrifying. So maybe it's not the relationship for you, or maybe it is. That's for you to determine. What's your readiness, okay? And the very last one, actually no, because I just thought of another one. The second and last one is if you guys have genuine love or not. Do you genuinely love your partner? Does your partner genuinely love you? If you do, maybe it's important to reconsider. Maybe you want to try again. Maybe you want to make it work. The reason why I mention that is because heartbreak is actually very severe, especially for men, by the way, males. Heartbreak can determine a lot of issues. Actually, if you're in a long-term situation like that, you can have health issues. But at the same time, staying in an unhappy relationship can also give you health issues, emotional issues. So I want you to determine the level of love, commitment, and connection you guys have in this relationship. Do you really love your partner, or are you just here because you're scared to leave? Does your partner really love you, or are they just, getting something out of it? And is love enough for you? Is love enough for you? That's for you to decide. I can't determine. But you guys, if you want a relationship that's satisfying and an avoidant is not giving you that, leave. You have that right. You are allowed to be happy. You're allowed to be happy. And I think the part that a lot of people don't understand is sometimes you can love your partner and you still might want to leave. And that's the scary part. So it's up to you to determine, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And I want to be completely honest, whatever decision you make, don't judge yourself. You can leave and then want to come back, go for it. I respect that. You can leave and you're done forever, good. I respect that too. You can stay. I respect that too. And you should respect it as well. Your decision, don't let anybody else make that. It's yours. It's your life, and you deserve to be happy wherever you got to go, wherever you need to go. And the last one that I kind of just thought about is reflect on if you still have hope. Now, this one doesn't always determine everything, but if you are feeling completely hopeless and you have tried what you feel like has everything, maybe the relationship staying in it any longer will only hurt you. Hope is very important in life. Hope is a lot of times what what fights so much mental illness. I mean, most of the time, how you fight depression, anxiety, even triggers like in bipolar, seriously, like things that, like those things, even schizoaffective disorder, most of the time, when a patient has hope, some of their symptoms decrease. I mean, a schizoaffective disorder, I don't know if you all know what that is. It's basically schizophrenia with a mood disorder. So like I had one patient, I'm not going to say what they have, but they had quite a list of diagnostic impressions. And you would think this person would have nothing, right? Like it's so hard for them. But this person was the most strong, I mean, such a strong person, so much trauma. And what kept them going was hope. And I'm going to be completely honest. Sometimes I'm serious. Sometimes I feel like they function better than what I was showing up as, because they had more hope than anyone I could imagine. And they worked so hard. They didn't give up ever. And so if you feel like, and I love hope, like personally, hope is what I feel like can save so many people. So if your relationship is draining that, it's making you feel like there is no hope, that might be time to leave, because hope is special for you, not for anybody else. For you as a person, hope can fight so many things. So please, if you're feeling like your relationship is draining and draining and draining that hope, that light in your life, maybe it's important to reevaluate, because I don't want anyone to take that from you. So I'm sure this video was really it was kind of all over the place. I've had a busy week, but I hope this helped somebody. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.